Well, good morning. Yes, it's morning. It's pretty dark out yet so far this morning. It's really just a little after 7 a.m. I'm on my way to work. And, well, here in central North Carolina, the sun has not come up yet. We're about probably a good 30 minutes away from that happening. But at the same time, I'll be at work probably about when the sun comes up. So if I was going to do a morning skate this morning, I've got to do it in the dark. So I apologize for the low light situation that we're in. But this morning it can't be helped because I'm going into work early. Anyway, last night, we get to hockey talk. Last night there were 3 games around the league. The first game, Buffalo and Edmonton. It was Edmonton's second game in their brand new building, and Buffalo ended up winning that game 6-2. I did not see that game. Wow. I did not see that game because I was refereeing last night, and the first game, I think that game either started at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern. So I wasn't able to see that game because I was on the ice myself refereeing an adult league that I referee on Sunday nights. But I did see comments after the game that McClellan, Edmonton's head coach, was pretty disappointed in their effort. Obviously, a 6-2 loss is not any one player that could have caused that. That was just an overall team breakdown. So, I guess in a nutshell, he seemed to think that Edmonton, because they won their first 2 games against Calgary, was playing a little bit more confidently, I guess, than they should have, or a little too overconfident, I guess. So Buffalo came out and basically destroyed them 6-2. In the second game, the Islanders, which I believe was their home opener, beat Anaheim 3-2 in overtime. And again, that was a game that took place while I was refereeing hockey myself, so I wasn't able to see that game, but I did see highlights of it, and it looked like a pretty good sized crowd in the building. Islanders were one of the teams that were struggling at the gate last year, and at least for their home opener anyway, they seemed to have a pretty good crowd there at the Barclays Center last night. And of course those fans went home happy because the Islanders scored a 3-2 overtime victory. In the last game last night, there was only 3 games total. And in the last game was a late game. Carolina traveled out to Vancouver, and the final score of that game was 4-3 in overtime in favor of Vancouver. And I got home from reffing about right at the end of the first period, or actually during the intermission by the time I got the TV on. By the time I got in the house, got things put away, and turned on the TV, it was intermission. And at that time, Carolina was ahead 2-0. And then partway through the second, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead. but that was all the scoring that Carolina would do. And they ended up losing the game 4-3 in overtime. Vancouver just kept clawing back. In the third period, it looked like Carolina was trying to sit on that lead, and because Vancouver was really taking it to them. If you were to look at the stat sheet, I don't have it in front of me, but if you were to look at the stat sheet for the game, I guarantee you Carolina badly got outshot in the third period. So the youth of Carolina is definitely showing in games at this point. They've played 2 games now, and they've jumped out to 3-goal leads in both games. And in both games, they ended up losing the game in overtime. So they've got 2 points to show for it, but it really should have been 4 in both games, because again, they had 3-goal leads in both games and weren't able to hang on. So that's something that Coach Terry is going to have to shore up, and I'm not sure what he's going to do. I think it simply goes down to growing pains. You know, you've got a lot of youth in that Carolina lineup, and they're just going to have to figure out ways to close games out if they want to compete for a playoff spot this year. So, all in all, that was a pretty quiet day yesterday after a very busy day on Saturday. And I don't know. There's not much else to say about the games yesterday. So I'll go ahead and wrap up today's morning skate. And I'm off tomorrow, so the morning skate for tomorrow will be from my desk, because I've got a lot of work to do at home. And I think tonight is a very light schedule too. I didn't see what the schedule was, and I don't have it available to me while I'm driving. But Mondays generally, traditionally in the past in the NHL, are very light days. So I expect the same tonight. So there won't be much in terms of games to talk about, but anyway. Oh, there was one other thing that came across when I was looking at stuff last night. Wojtek Wolski, I don't know if, certain fans of certain teams would definitely remember him, but he was a player in the NHL, I don't know, 500 or so games in the NHL. I know he played for Colorado. I know he played for Florida. I can't remember the other teams he played for, but he was an NHL regular. Well, he at some point in the recent past moved to the KHL and has been playing in that league. And over the weekend, I don't know exactly which night it happened, but he was diving for a puck. He was basically it was a puck that was along the boards, and he was diving for it to try to beat out another player and attempting to drop it back to his point man because they were in the offensive zone. Well, when he dove, he went down, and the other player that he was battling the puck with fell down on top of him, and both of them slid into the boards. Well, Wolski went into the boards head first and broke his neck. Broke 2 vertebrae in his neck, and they're saying that he will be out of action for the rest of this season. So I guess it was a pretty bad injury. They ended up rushing him to the hospital because he was out for a little while there, and apparently no major permanent damage was done, but he will be out for the better part of the season. So that's a good thing that he's he's not going to be out for well, could have been a lot worse, we'll put it that way. And it ended up being relatively good news, considering the injury looked a lot worse originally. So that was the other major thing that came across my news feed. It wasn't NHL related, but still, he's a former NHL player. So, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I've pulled into work, and I've got to get in there. So we'll go ahead and end it. We'll see you tomorrow.